In today's video, you guys know that Border Patrol has hit up Charlotte, North Carolina, which has led to a bombshell announcement from the public school system. Also, the president met with the Prince of Saudi Arabia today and secured a $1 trillion investment at Epstein. Can't forget about that. There's a new update that's going to leave you shocked. All right, let's start with what's going on with the Charlotte public school system. Take a look.
Good evening, Jesse. We are only on day 4 of this operation, and DHS says that it has already arrested more than 200 illegal immigrants, and the operation is getting a ton of support, as DHS says that many of these people have criminal backgrounds involving things like assault, gang affiliation, drunk driving, and more. But as you can see by this protest, there is also a lot of pushback towards this immigration crackdown. And I'll take a little walk to show our viewers a better look at this. But right now where we are has been sort of a hot spot for these protests. And that is because we are outside of a Latino bakery here in Charlotte that is temporarily closing. And that's because the owner says that ICE is targeting its customers. And we know that other businesses have closed as well. The school system here says 21,000 kids have been absent since this immigration crackdown, and the mayor says that people aren't showing up to their jobs, particularly in the housekeeping and construction industry. But we have seen a lot of people have some pretty tense reactions because of this. We've seen people who spot ICE agents cussing at them, yelling at them. We know that there has been 2 separate car ramming incidents just here in Charlotte alone, and that comes as DHS says that they have seen an unprecedented surge in car rammings towards CBP and ICE agents.
So clearly Charlotte is drinking the same Kool-Aid as Chicago. They believe in resisting this mass deportation operation that 77 million people voted for, by the way. They continue to obstruct ICE officials from doing their job, which is a crime, and they're ramming vehicles off the road. I mean, if the left is looking for people to have sympathy or compassion or for them to have credibility on this debate, they have none, because they don't condemn that type of behavior. That puts innocent lives at risk when people respond this way. There's a thing called follow commands. It seems to be something that people refuse to do. Now, as a result of ICE showing up in Charlotte, this story is now catching a lot of attention. More than 30,000 students in the Charlotte Public School District was absent on Monday because of fears of deportation.
An educator now tells us that's not the main reason classrooms are empty. Queen City News anchor Will Lewis spoke with the teacher who says the uptick in absences is a direct result of Operation Charlotte's Web.
David Gillespie says the last 24 hours have been tough.
I don't represent the CMS district nor my school.
But he's seen what 2 days of Customs and Border Patrol agents taking more than 130 people into custody.
I'm just sharing my opinion as a teacher in the Charlotte area.
Does to students.
My homeroom class typically has 16 students in it. We had 4.
District-wide, there are 145,030 students enrolled in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. On Monday, 30,399 were absent, 28,136 unexcused. While CMS doesn't break down the numbers by ethnic origin, Gillespie, a multilingual teacher, did.
Children of parents from Angola, from Vietnam, but the students whose parents come from Latin American countries were the students we were missing.
So let's put 2 to 2 together. If you know illegal immigration is a crime, I don't know what people are crying about, okay? If you're telling me that our school systems have this amount of undocumented migrants attending, we have issues, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what happens is Democrats are looking for people's empathy. What do we call it? Suicidal empathy. No, we have to start with law and order. You know who also has an immigration policy? Heaven. You know who else has an immigration policy like almost every country in the world? Why is it that in America we think we can have a prosperous country and just leave the border wide open? That's ridiculous. Yeah, but they're kids, Devori, they're kids. Yeah, they're kids who have parents who are here illegally. They all can go. We need to put American citizens first. I don't understand what the confusion is about that. I have more to say, but I want you to hear more of this.
So that was kind of the line, even among the ML students, is that we were missing Hispanic students.
Davis says news of the operation reached his students well before they entered the classroom on Monday. He says those who have come back are still scared, and he's unsure if or when the other students will return.
They should be able to come there and get their education. They should be able to come there and spend time with their friends, socialize. They should feel secure.
Gillespie says these days were not in his lesson plan, but it's a lesson everyone should learn.
ICE is never going to come to the school. Border Patrol is not going to come to the school. And I think what was chilling about yesterday is that it was demonstrated that they don't have to come to the school to affect the school. They don't have to step foot on the property to impact students.
It reminds me financially what's wrong with this country. You have to think about the interest rates at this point. You've got to think about how high inflation has become. You think they care about your financial future, your retirement plan? Absolutely not. All you need to do is look at the results. What is the price of gold right now versus the value of the dollar? That's why I encourage you guys to reach out to Lyric Capital. It's exactly what I recommended my mother-in-law to do. She was worried about her money. She was worried about the cost of living. And she does live in California, by the way. And what she was going to do moving forward with her retirement. So she wanted to take matters into her own hands, and she wanted to speak to people that could be trusted. That is Lyric Capital. You want the education on how to take your hard-earned cash and put it into precious metals investing. Lyric Capital is the people to talk to. So the bottom line here for me is that with all this uncertainty, reach out to my friends at Lyric Capital so they can show you how gold or silver can help you. And right now, as a special, they're offering $20,000 bonus in gold or silver on a qualified purchase. All you have to do is call them at 1-800-920-8388. That number again is 1-800-920-8388. Or you could go to the link in the description below at leardevory.com. The only thing I can say to people who think this way is that if a person crossed the border illegally, okay, they had papers that expired, which has put them in a position where they're here unlawfully, or they've been here unlawfully for many decades on end, why is that a problem for the American people? Why can't they just get their act together like the people who did it correctly? The people who have become naturalized citizens, the people who do have a visa in good standing order. What makes them so special than those people? I'm not understanding that. Just because you're coming from a country that, has some problems, I'm supposed to forget about the law all of a sudden? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Imagine where our tax dollars have been going for over the past 5 years because of this nonsense. Just imagine that. It's in almost every area of public policy. The money, if it was Democrats, it was up to them, it would be limitless.
Big protest out in Charlotte where Charlotte's Web is unfolding. Well, what would you say to those people out on the street threatening ICE officers all wound up at night?
You cross the line, you're going to be prosecuted. You slash a tire, you're going to be prosecuted. You impede ICE, you're going to be prosecuted. Pam Boendi's doing a great job. President Trump told me personally months ago, zero tolerance. You break the law, you impede us, you will be prosecuted by the federal government. I'd also ask them what they have achieved. What did they achieve in LA protests and Chicago protests and Charlotte protests and New York City? What did they achieve? I'll tell you what they achieved. Every time they do this, they achieve more officers are sent to do these operations, more arrests are made, and we flood the zone with more officers. The results of all this foolishness, more arrests, more safety on the street, more ICE officers, they're not going to stop us from doing this. We're going to be there tonight. We're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there every day because President Trump made a promise to the American people that we're going to have the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen. By the end of the week, we'll be at over 600,000 deportation, historic record. And that's just since President Trump's been in office. We're not even counting the first 4 months of the Biden administration during the fiscal year.
Wow.
So we're going to keep doing this job. We are not walking away. We're keeping President Trump's promise to make this country safe again, one illegal criminal at a time.
And that's why you love Tom Homan, right? Because he tells it like it is. Guys, we're going to go to this next story, and I told you we can't escape it. So there's another Epstein update that just leaves you shaking your head. It's the language that was put into the Epstein Transparency Act that gives Pam Bondi the authority to decide what gets redacted, what doesn't, what gets released, and what doesn't. It's fascinating. Let's hear this now.
The legislation as it stands clearly says, quote, the Attorney General may withhold or redact personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files, unquote, and any material that depicts injury, physical abuse, death, or child sexual abuse, or would jeopardize an active investigation or national security. President Trump says he would sign the legislation, although as Commander-in-Chief, there are legal paths for him to compel the Justice Department to release the files without the Congress getting involved at all. He could do so right this second.
So Luke put it very well. And there's two sides to this. So let me just show you this side first. We're not getting the Epstein disclosures. What senator added this language in there? It was actually Thomas Massie who added it. It's his bill, ultimately. As of now, Pam Bondi gets to choose what people see and don't see based on generalized terms called national security and, quote, ongoing investigations. Okay. And he's just highlighting that language that we just heard Fake Tapper read off. Now, someone in the comments put this, which is the other side of it. That's the general law derived from FOIA. They can always withhold classified material and pending investigation material. The law actually is more demanding that FOIA or other disclosure laws in requiring the summaries, compelling necessity, and only temporary withholding. Bottom line is this. Will we get the information that everybody's ultimately looking for, which is what? We want to know the names. And the fascinating part is we don't need the files to know the names. They already know the names. The question is, why haven't they released them? That's the real question. You know what's interesting? One of the victims who promised to release the list of the perpetrators was on Chris Cuomo tonight, and he asked her point blank, where is the list? Where are the names? Hear her response.
The other question is, why haven't the names come out before now? Unless they've just been subject to civil suits that were settled so people can't say anything or won't say anything. You know, if you know that there are other people other than Epstein, other than Prince or former Prince, you know, whatever his name is, why haven't they come out? And why hasn't a list been put together already?
It's so hard to answer that question because a list has been put together for years. Our attorneys, survivors, we've named names for years. And when I said we'll release the list, it was just speaking to more survivors to get more names on the list. The same names keep coming up. The same names that we've given with our attorneys to the DOJ and the FBI is the same names they've always had. So we do want to help, but they already have had all the information they've needed to release for years now. And so to answer your question, I don't know why it's taken so long. I mean, isn't that the million-dollar question?
It doesn't make sense that Democrats particularly have been sitting on the files. Now the Trump administration comes in, they're sitting on the files. Then the Oversight Committee has access to 20,000 pages that are part of these files. And then the victims know the names of the perpetrators but refuse to say it out loud. I mean, this whole thing is out of hand. It's insanity. Now, here's the most important question. Take a look.
Why are you guys afraid to put out the names? The attorneys say don't?
Death threats. A lot of us are mothers. You know, we want the names to be out there. We want justice. But why do we have to do it? That's a very scary thing, and I think you know that. You know, it's just we want to help to put the names out there, but it's not our responsibility to do so. And I think you know why. I mean, so many people, so many of the survivors.
I get it. I just want you to tell people.
Have received
Lisa,
many death threats.
I want you to tell people. I want you to tell people because, you know, based on what side you're on, and I know nobody should have a side when it comes to defending people who traffic women, young women especially, or any women. There are sides. So that's why I want you to articulate it, and you've done it.
Okay, number one, the fact that people know who the perpetrators are and refuse to release the list because they say they're not responsible doesn't sit right with me. Number two, it's obvious they would receive death threats. There's no question about that. But if we're trying to, I guess, expose one of the biggest corruptions in history, I think you would just go down swinging. All right, you would tell people who they are. You'd write a book to tell people who they are. because once it's out there, it's out there. There's no going back. And number three, this is all about results at the end of the day. So let's say Democrats get their way and whatever file is available to be released, it gets released. Well, the next step for Democrats, because they're obsessed with this, is why haven't you subpoenaed Larry Summers yet? Why haven't you subpoenaed, Prince Andrew and some of the names you're already aware of? Where's the committee on that? Where's the investigation on that in front of the cameras? It doesn't exist. That's why I don't buy this nonsense from them. All right, here's what Tim Burchett had to say on Laura Ingraham. Take a look.
Suspected when it all goes out, the Democrats in Congress will have to find another shiny object down the road to kick, and they keep trying to kick Donald Trump, and they haven't been able to do it yet. You know, it's very ironic, the fact that I asked for unanimous consent last week, and the liberal media just went ballistic, and the Congress went ballistic. So we're trying to hide it. And what did Schumer do? As soon as he got it, unanimous consent, he wanted it on the board. And it just tells you just how backwards and just how really diabolical the left is. They change the narrative so often, and the lamestream media follows up. All they're trying to do, Laura, is to cover up over all the excellent work that President Trump's done. They can't stand that he shut the border down overnight. They can't stand that we're strong militarily. They can't stand that he's ended multiple wars, and their president, they gave him a Nobel Peace Prize basically for a participation trophy.
Let's focus on the merits of this update overall. The update is clear. One, Pam Bondi, according to language that some people believe is always in things like this, she has the authority to redact, to remove, to refuse to release certain documents because it violates certain key pieces of somebody's personal information. Okay. But more importantly, we already have some names, and they have not been dragged into Congress and, bombarded with questions. Don't you guys find that interesting? So are Democrats really wanting to go down this road and see it through to the end? Or are they doing what they did with the government shutdown? See, once the government was open again, they switched to Epstein. Okay, so once the president signs off on this and files start getting released, what are they going to switch to next? It's a good question. Here's what Scott Jennings had to say.
I think Democrats strategically may have never believed that Republicans would do this, and they may be careful what they wish for here, because we're already finding out that Epstein was in touch with Democrat members of Congress in 2019. We know Larry Summers, the president of Harvard, Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, was soliciting dating advice from Epstein. We know he was trying to fundraise with Hakeem Jeffries. I think we're going to find out the Epstein political story has everything to do with Democrats and nothing to do with Donald Trump, and that could blow up in their face.
Yeah, see, case in point would be Stacey Plaskett, okay, Democrat representative out of Virgin Islands. She is up for a vote to be censured, removed from her select committee. So clearly that blew back in their face, all right? And then Hakeem Jeffries and Ro Khanna did receive campaign funds from Jeffrey Epstein. So there's that. All right, let's go to our next update. The president is hosting the Prince of Saudi Arabia at the White House. But why is the question, especially given the past history of Saudi Arabia and how they played certain roles in certain wars regarding our country. Here's just a quick look at what the scene was like. And, it's kind of historic if you think about it. Take a look. At the end there, you saw Elon Musk in attendance. So that's interesting. And I'm not too sure why he's there or what role he's playing, but it just goes to show you how things change so quickly, right? And I think we're going to hear more about this tomorrow and exactly what went into this entire event, every detail. But what we do know for a fact is that Saudi Arabia has upped their commitment regarding investment into our economy from $600 billion to $1 trillion. Here's Scott Bessent talking about that. Take a look.
A big investment in the U.S. from the Saudi Crown Prince. Joining us now, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Treasury Secretary, thanks for being here.
Brett, good to be with you.
That was a big announcement at that moment. 600 to $1 trillion.
Brett, it was the president at his best, working for the American people, always looking for more for them, and it was a big day here today.
What does that look like? I mean, it sounds great, 600 billion to $1 trillion, but how does that roll out? What does it actually look like?
Well, Brett, think about if you were another country in the world, what do you look to the U.S. for? What are the sources of American power? And that's what we saw on display here today. First, there's the military. So Saudis are going to be buying F-35s, coveted by everyone around the world, proof that they are a valuable ally. Two, our great economy and the reserve currency status of the dollar. So they are willing to put in $1 trillion of investment into their portfolio that they already have here. The U.S. is the premier destination in the world. And then three, our technology and innovation economy. Again, they want to invest in that. They want to buy our chips. We are going to partner them with some of the U.S. biggest tech companies. And then there's also a Saudi startup that will be getting a smaller supply of chips that can be built on.
Okay, so this announcement continues to tell people exactly who the president is. Okay? He's not a conservative. He's not a Republican. Technically, he's not a Democrat these days. He's a businessman. He loves to make deals. He believes by securing record amount of investments into our economy, whether that is, like you heard, buying chips, buying weapons, buying F-35s, that long-term America will benefit from that. Now, that remains to be seen because I don't think there's been a president who's even come close to what he's secured. And obviously, execution is key here. So will that money follow through? Obviously, time will tell. But there's no question that Saudi Arabia prince is only in the White House for one reason, because the president sees dollar signs. He thinks there's a deal to be made, and he believes it's in the best interest of America. That's why I'm saying the president is not thinking from a place of ideology. He's thinking from a place of dollars and cents for the American people.
Would a $2,000 tariff dividend check going to people be inflationary?
Well, there are a lot of things that are going to happen next year.
Is that one of them?
And that could be one of them. And again, maybe we could persuade Americans to save that, because one of the things that's going to happen next year is the Trump accounts. Every child who was born from January 1st for the next 3 years is going to get a government account that goes into the stock market. So every American child born for the next 3 years, starting January 1st, is going to have that. They can take it out when they're 18. They're going to learn the power of compounding, and there's going to be a lot of financial literacy around that. And I think the reason that we saw kind of the disastrous election in New York is young people don't feel like they have a stake in the economy. So we want to give them a stake in the economy.
Okay, so that last point that he made, in my opinion, is a joke. And let me explain why. So members of Congress, administrations have continued to promise young people that they're going to fix the economy, and they just haven't done it. Okay? So it's upon Congress, and they could have done this already. They could have introduced a piece of legislation that was targeting the cost of building homes. They could have introduced a piece of legislation that was going to address increasing the supply of homes. The president could have come out and established some type of trade school accelerated program that the federal government will get behind and subsidize to a certain degree to make sure that students are not taking 4 to 5 years to finally get a degree and then end up in a job that isn't going to pay any money. There's so many things that they could be doing to communicate the solution to this problem. It's just fascinating how hard it is for them to do this across the entire political spectrum. Okay, it's everyone on Capitol Hill. It's really an embarrassment to our younger generation, that is Gen Z. Now, he goes on to talk about healthcare. Let's take a look at that.
Dividends are coming to an end at the end of December. There are efforts on Capitol Hill, all kinds of efforts. Are you in favor of a 6-month extension to try to get a plan between Congress and the White House, first of all? And second of all, are you working on tax plans around whatever health care plan surfaces?
Well, Brett, what we do at Treasury, we'll work on the tax plan. I don't want to get ahead of the president or HHA. Secretary Kennedy. So we will see what happens with that, but I can guarantee you Treasury will have thought out the taxes.
And do you think there's going to be a push, like months, to kind of give some breathing room?
Again, we're just in charge of the tax side.
Last question.
Okay, essentially what he is saying without saying it is that they have not come up with a clear plan yet. That's the bottom line. When the administration has a clear plan, you'll notice that they all repeat the same thing. They don't have a clear plan right now. That's why no one's saying anything, okay? And some people kind of say stuff and then some people don't. And again, this continues to be the weakness of the Republican Party as a whole. I mean, they just have a hard time articulating healthcare in America, okay? And it's not just about able-bodied people, okay? It's much more than that. We're talking about insurance companies, premiums, etc., the whole gamut. They just haven't been able to do it. So hopefully over the holiday weekend, they figure it out. Or the holiday season, they figure it out. Because come next year, if they don't have a clear plan, the Democrats will shut down the government again, guys. I hope we're all prepared for that. All right. Speaking of that, why don't we hear from you guys in the comment section below to these stories today? It seems like all day was all about Epstein. But what do you make of the fact that this language gives Attorney General Pam Bondi the authority to withhold certain pieces of information, redact certain names, etc.? What do you guys make of that? What do you make of the fact that one of the victims doesn't believe it's their responsibility to release the names of the perpetrators? I found that interesting. What do you make of these anti-ICE protests in North Carolina, particularly how the school system is reporting a significant loss in students being present in the elementary schools? Just give me all your thoughts and everything you got in the comment section below. All right, this takes us to our next video, where Representative Stacey Plaskett, the lady who was texting Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing, well, she got some bad news. The House has moved to censor her and remove her from her select committee. You guys missed out on that update and more? All you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.